The Indiana Fever beat the Dallas Wings 102-83. This was a highly anticipated game because it was going to be the first time that Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers would be going up against one another in the WNBA.
The world tuned in to see Caitlin Clark battle her greatest rival, Paige Bueckers, but the real war wasn't on the court, it was on her own sideline. Just before this epic showdown, the Indiana Fever were on the brink of collapse, torn apart by a secret battle of wills between Clark and her coach. Their heated on-camera argument revealed a team in chaos. What happened next wasn't just a win, it was a rebellion that unleashed a record-shattering performance and proved everyone, including her own team, had been holding her back. The rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers was forged in the fire of competition long before they ever stepped onto a WNBA court. They were two phenoms on parallel tracks, hailed as the future of basketball since their high school days. Clark, the explosive deep-range bomber from Iowa with unmatched court vision. Bueckers, the smooth, efficient floor general from the legendary UConn dynasty. Their paths diverged in college, but were destined to collide on the biggest stages. In their NCAA tournament showdowns, it was Clark who emerged victorious, shattering Bueckers' championship dreams and establishing a clear dominance. Their first professional matchup was more than just a game. It was billed as the next chapter in a legendary saga. But as they entered the pros, the narrative began to shift and the whispers of doubt grew into a deafening roar aimed squarely at Clark.
Hey, Caitlin. You've known Paige since middle school, AAU. You guys were on the U19 World Cup team together. Is there anything that maybe stood out then about her, whether it be on or off the court, that maybe still reigns true today?
I mean, I feel like she's played in the same manner that she, has since she was, whether we were on the U16 team together, U19 team together, whether it was me watching her in AAU. Like, she's always just been smooth. She takes what the game gives her. Her midi has always been as nice as it's been this year. She's just like, she just plays way older than she is. Like, she's confident, she's smooth, she just does everything at a high level, can score from all three levels. And that's how she's always played. And that's obviously translated really well.
As Clark prepared for the WNBA, a prophecy began to circulate among the game's old guard. Figures like Bueckers' own coach, the legendary Gino Auriemma, publicly questioned if Clark's audacious, high-volume style could survive the physicality and defensive intensity of the professional league. The consensus from critics was clear. She was in for a rude awakening. They argued her shot selection was reckless, that her defensive liabilities would be exposed, and that the freedom she enjoyed at Iowa wouldn't exist in the structured world of the WNBA. The league seemed to be holding its breath, waiting to see if this college sensation would be humbled. And for a terrifying moment as the season unfolded, it looked like the doubters...
And a lot of people are saying, oh, everything is she was Caitlin before Caitlin, she's better than Caitlin and all this stuff. That kind of stopped in the media. Caitlin Clark put up better numbers in the WNBA than Paige did in college.
And Diana said it best. This kid's in for a rude awakening. And they all jumped over her, but they didn't read the whole thing that she said. But nobody's printing. Diana Taurasi was right. This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league. And she's a rookie. And if you're a WNBA player, if you're any kind of player, you're going to say, I'm going to make a statement.
The Indiana Fever were in a state of internal collapse. Before their massive showdown with Dallas, the team was stumbling through the season in a fog of inconsistency. They suffered embarrassing losses to weaker teams, followed by flashes of brilliance, only to fall apart again. The chemistry was off, the offense was stagnant, and the wins were few and far between. Even Clark, the generational talent meant to save the franchise, was caught in the storm. She was mired in a frustrating shooting slump, acknowledging that while she was getting good looks, the shots just weren't falling. The team was fragile, their confidence was shaken, and fans were beginning to wonder if the hype was just that. But the on-court struggles were...
Talking to our player development coach yesterday, and he was like, just sent me a few things of like even Steph going through a slump. I think he was like 27 for his last 70 or something like that. Like, the best in the world go through it, and I think that's like where you can find your confidence. And I think the thing I always fall back on is like, I know how hard I've worked. So, this isn't something that's going to last. And the best players in the world go through this. So I feel like I'm getting good shots. And I think that's why it's frustrating, because those are the shots that I make.
Behind the closed doors of the Fever's locker room, a war of wills was brewing. It was a fundamental clash of basketball philosophy between Caitlin Clark and her head coach, Stephanie White. Clark's entire career was built on speed, transition, and pushing the pace to create chaos for the defense. She saw the court as a launching pad for her signature touchdown passes and quick strike offense. Coach White, however, favored a more traditional, controlled, half-court style.
I feel like this stretch, this is a big game for us. I think we've struggled in the fact that we're able to play one good game, and then we play a bad game, then we play a good game, then we play a bad game. So I think for us is like, we got to find a way to be able to stack really good games together. And then we go on the road, and, we're on a back-to-back, which is just a challenge in itself. No matter who you're playing, we play Connecticut, then we play New York. So I think Steph's message was, yes, All-Stars coming up, that break's coming up, but our focus is on these 3 games that we have left. So in that sense, I do think it's critical that our focus just remains on the game in front of us. And I feel like that's what everybody in the locker room is doing.
The tension simmering between their two visions finally boiled over during a game against the Atlanta Dream. Cameras caught every second of a heated sideline exchange, where their disagreement was laid bare for the world to see. It was a raw, unfiltered moment that exposed the deep fracture within the team. The Fever were at a crossroads. With her biggest rival, Paige Bueckers, coming to town, the Dallas game became more than just a game. It was an ultimatum.
There is definitely something going on within the locker room, the front office. Something is off, man. This is the 3rd situation in one game we have had involving Caitlin Clark and the coaching staff and pretty much another player. And it looked like Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White definitely had a situation where they was in a heated exchange right before halftime.
Then something shifted. Whether it was the pressure of the national stage or a desperate last-ditch effort to save a struggling team, Stephanie White made a gamble. She finally did the one thing she had resisted all season. She handed the keys to Caitlin Clark. Against Dallas, White unleashed her rookie, giving her the freedom to control the tempo and run the offense her way. The first quarter was competitive, with both teams feeling each other out. But in the second quarter, the gamble paid off in a way no one could have imagined. The Fever didn't just play, they erupted. Clark began pushing the pace relentlessly, finding teammates in stride for easy layups. The touchdown passes that had been missing all season were suddenly raining down. The team scored.
It can be frustrating when your shot isn't going in the way that you want it to, but then I look at the box and it's like, I'm really 4 shots away from having a really good game, a really good shooting game. So that's where you find your confidence, and I know those are shots that I can make, and I'm never going to stop shooting. So, until I break out of it, I'm just going to keep launching, and that's all I know, and I'm still confident in everything that I can do.
This was a symphony of destruction. With the freedom to play her game, Clark didn't just score, she elevated everyone around her. Kelsey Mitchell caught fire, pouring in 20 points and extending her double-digit scoring streak to an incredible 21 games. Natasha Howard, running the floor like a gazelle, was unstoppable, finishing with 18 points on hyper-efficient shooting. In the paint, Aaliyah Boston was a force of nature, perfectly in sync with Clark as they executed a flawless 2-man game. The ball movement was poetry, leading to a franchise record-tying 30 assists.
Leah Rue the other night had a season high 18 points. Here's Boston turning the corner. Dishing to Hull. Extra feed Clark. A deep 3. You bet. And he actually brought up stats from a shooting slump Steph Curry went through. She said that made her feel a lot better. That pass will as well. Right on the money to Mitchell.
Cunningham attacked the closeout.
Clark, the rejection of Quinterly. Clark, the flick ahead. Oh, beautifully done. Touchdown Fever.
The team shattered their franchise record for points in a first half, putting up an unbelievable 64. The critics who said Clark's style wouldn't work were being silenced in real time. This wasn't just a win, it was the validation of a vision. But while the scoreboard told a story of dominance, a different, more secret history was being written, one that would place Clark in a category all by herself.
Here's Clark being hawked by Isaiah James. Clark sidestepping three is good. Clark backing down Quinterly. 6 to shoot, baiting away and dropping it in. Beautiful. Here's Clark off the screen, through the lane, feeds Howard. Another assist for Clark. That's 13 as Howard is up to 18 points.
As the final buzzer sounded on the 102-83 blowout, the world was focused on the victory over a rival, but the box score held a deeper truth. Throughout the game, Clark had been quietly assembling a statistical masterpiece. She finished with 14 points, showing she could score efficiently without forcing shots. She dished out 13 assists, proving she could make her entire team better. But then came the defensive numbers.
And he actually brought up stats from a shooting slump Steph Curry went through. She said that made her feel a lot better. That pass will as well, right on the money to Mitchell. A tenacious start from Caitlin Clark. Here's Ogunbowale off on a three. Long rebound. Mitchell, you're not going to catch her. Kelsey Mitchell in for two. They elevate each other because of how hard they compete. Nice look, Aaliyah Boston with a gorgeous dime to Kelsey Mitchell.
She was a menace in the passing lanes, anticipating the wings' every move. And then, with her 5th steal of the game, she didn't just seal the win, she entered a league of her own. With a final stat line of 14 points, 13 assists, and 5 steals, Clark achieved something remarkable. She is now the only player in the entire history of the WNBA to post that combination of stats twice in a career. She stands completely alone.
Cunningham the rebound. Cunningham swiftly up the floor, finds Howard for two. Sophie Cunningham making a huge impact off the bench, and Dallas will take a timeout.
In this lineup, Natasha Howard is the quickest post player on the floor.
But Clark's historic night was only one side of the story. The other was the complete and total dismantling of her opponent's game plan. The Dallas Wings came into the game with a clear strategy: be physical, get in Clark's face, and bully her out of her rhythm. They grabbed her off the ball and stubbornly refused to switch on screens, determined to wear her down, but the strategy backfired spectacularly. Instead of getting rattled, Clark used their aggression against them. Every time they swarmed her, she found an open teammate, turning their defensive focus into a fatal weakness.
Good dub. 2 in a row. 2 more to All-Star. Let's go. Woo!
W. Oh, Fever does. You already know what's coming. Bow, bow, bow. On to the next. Hell yeah! Can you use that one? Let's go, baby. Give your jersey to Kristen. W. Now we gotta go get another one.
The most damning evidence of the Fever's dominance, however, was the shutdown of the Wings' star player, Arike Ogunbowale. One of the league's most dynamic scorers was rendered completely invisible. The Fever's energized defense, led by Clark's disruptive presence, made her a non-factor. Ogunbowale finished the game going 0 for 10 from the field, scoring just 2 points. It was a brutal, systematic neutralization that proved the Wings weren't just beaten, their entire philosophy was exposed as a failure.
Is in bounds. Clark backing down Quinterly. 6 to shoot, baiting away and dropping it in. Beautiful mid-range fadeaway from Caitlin Clark.
The impact of this game sent a shockwave far beyond the Dallas locker room. It was a direct and undeniable answer to every critic who had ever doubted Clark. The rude awakening they had all predicted had arrived, but not for her. Coach Stephanie White's decision to change the offense wasn't a moment of strategic genius. It was a necessary surrender to the undeniable truth that her system had been suffocating her star. This win gave the Fever a new identity. They were no longer the talented but dysfunctional team that stumbled through games.
Cunningham attacked the closeout.
Clark, the rejection of Quinterly. Clark, the flick ahead. Oh, beautifully done. Touchdown, Fever.
Sophie Cunningham runs the route and puts her hand up in the air, gives Caitlin Clark the target, barely over the fingertips of Hines Allen. Beautiful, beautiful pass, catch, in stride, finish. Beautiful basketball.
They were now a cohesive, terrifying unit playing Fever basketball, a brand defined by relentless pace and unselfish ball movement. The victory also reset the narrative of the Clark Bueckers rivalry. This wasn't a hard-fought battle between equals. It was a demolition. Clark didn't just outplay her rival, she made her entire team look overwhelmed. The question was no longer whether Clark could adapt to the WNBA. The new, more frightening question was, who in the WNBA can possibly adapt to her?
I feel like this was one of their best games as far as playing Fever basketball, which is a fast-paced style of basketball. They played Fever basketball for, I would say, about 75 to 80% of the game. And we have obviously seen this style of basketball, the style of basketball that we all know and love from the Indiana Fever, but we have only really seen it in short spurts. There have been so many games and so many times throughout this season where it feels like the Fever system is a slow down basketball type of system. Their offense wasn't running smoothly, but in this game, they were playing quick. They were moving the ball around. They had so many points off of the fast break.
The prophecy of a rude awakening had been turned on its head. In one spectacular night, Caitlin Clark didn't just beat her rival, she silenced her critics, won the internal war for her team's identity, and proved that her electrifying brand of basketball could not only work but dominate at the highest level. The records that fell were just footnotes to the larger story. When a generational talent is trusted, they can rewrite what's possible. With the rest of the season ahead, this game wasn't an endpoint, it was a declaration. The rude awakening wasn't for her, it was for the rest of the league. The monster has officially been unleashed.